So the module bundler that we're going to use in this course is called Parcel. And it's super fast and easy to use. And even more importantly, it works out of the box without any configuration. Now, you might have heard of Webpack as well, which is probably the most popular bundler, and especially in React world. However, it's way too complex to use in a course like this, and so let's now learn how to use Parcel. So Parcel is basically just another build tool which is also on NPM. And so we will use NPM to install it. So NPM install Parcel, but this is now a different dependency. And so here we have to write -- save dev like this. Okay, then hit enter and simply watch it install. So a dev dependency is basically like a tool that we need to build our application. But it's not a dependency that we actually include in our code. All right, so it's simply a tool, and so that's why it's called a dev dependency, because we can use it to develop our project. And so therefore it appears here in a new field in our package.json file. So again, these libraries that we actually include in our code are the regular dependencies, and Parcel is a dev dependency. All right, so let's clear the console here and actually use Parcel. So we do it here in the terminal because Parcel is basically just another command line interface. However, we cannot simply run Parcel like this. So this is not going to work because the command is not found. And the reason for that is simply that this doesn't work with locally installed packages. And Parcel was indeed installed locally, so basically only on this project, and that's why it showed up in the package.json file of this exact project. So there are also global installations, but more about that by the end of this video. Now, in order to still be able to use Parcel here in the console, we have two options. So we can use something called npx, or we can use npm scripts. So let's start with npx, which is basically an application built into npm. So the details don't matter, but what does matter is that we can simply use npx to now run the same command as we did before, but this time it is going to work. And so this is the normal command, and the option that we pass into Parcel basically is this entry point. So the entry point is index.html because that is where we include our script.js. So basically the file that we want to bundle up. So in our script.js, we are currently including this clone deep module from Lodash. And also let's actually put back this code from the beginning so that we are also importing our shopping cart module from before. And so basically in this example, the goal of using Parcel is to bundle these three modules together. So script.js together with shoppingcart.js and together with this clone deep. And so let's actually try this now. So I'm hitting enter here, and now it's going to take some time and do some magic behind the scenes, but now it is actually done. So Parcel actually then also starts a new development server on this URL. So let's click that. And so you see it opened a new tab right here. So basically, besides only bundling, it also does exactly the same job as our live server. So remember that we started this development server using the live server package, right? And so this one here does exactly the same. The difference is that this one is on port 8080 and this one is on port 1234. And here we also have localhost, but that is exactly the same as writing 127.0.0.1. So this is just the raw IP address, and localhost is the nicer name. All right. Now, if you did have any errors by doing this, so maybe you couldn't even install Parcel or maybe you got some error while you were trying to run this command, then let me help you troubleshoot that. So to do that, I'm going to open a new terminal here, and we can do that by clicking this plus. And so now we have 3. And this first one we actually don't need anymore. So this one is still running our live server. And so let's cancel that by hitting Control-C. Okay? And again, that's because Parcel already does that same job. And so right now we no longer need this. And so now it's not working anymore. So let's close it. And the same for this terminal window. But anyway, let's go back to the one we were using. And so again, if you had any error installing it, you can try installing it with sudo, which will give you basically more permissions. So you write sudo and then exactly the same command as before. So npm install parcel. This will then ask you for your password, and then hopefully that's going to work. Now, if that doesn't fix it, then you have to install exactly the same version as I am using here. So we can read that in our package.json file. And so here you see that I'm using version 1.12.4. And so you can npm install exactly this version by writing @ and then 1.12.4. So maybe you have version 2 already installed, because it's going to be coming out very soon, and then that might break something. And so therefore it's best to use this version 1.12.4, at least in this project. In the next project, we will probably use version 2. And if that still doesn't fix it, then before doing this command, you can try to uninstall it first. So npm uninstall parcel like this, and then after that, you can try again to install this version. And so then you should be good to go. So you should have no more errors then. Okay. Now, speaking of errors, we do actually have one error here coming from our code. But the problem of that is that we still have this type module here. However, what parcel does is that it basically simply creates a script. And so now we are actually no longer using a module, but we are back to using a regular script. And that is important because modules do not work in older browsers. So let's comment this one out just so we can also keep it. Then I'm deleting this part, and then let's give it a save so that Parcel can rebuild this application. And great, the error is gone. Okay, but now let's actually take a look at what Parcel did here. So what it did was to create this dist folder, which stands for distribution, because it is essentially going to be this folder that we will send for production. So basically it's the code in this folder that we will send to our final users. So you see it created a new index.html here and also a bunch of JavaScript files. So let's take a look at this index here. And so you see that indeed it is a new one, because the included script here is now no longer the one that we built ourselves, but it is script dot and then all of this here. And so this new script here is basically the bundle itself. So it's this file, and so let's analyze it here as well. Okay, and so here you already see that it does include some of the stuff that we have in our other modules. So importing module, for example, we had in script.js. Let's see what else we have here. So here you see a bunch of stuff that is created by Parcel, of course. So this is basically the clone deep function probably at some point here. So you see a lot of code created by Parcel. But yeah, so in the real world, you will not take a look at this code. But I just wanted to show you that, of course, all of our code is now in here. So let's just search for clone deep, for example. So the one that we used. And so it's got to be somewhere down here as a function. And so indeed, all the code that we had before spread across multiple modules is now all in this script. And so that's exactly the goal that we had. And unused code has probably also not yet been removed, but we will leave that for later. So that's going to be the build step, but what we're doing right now is the development step. And so in order for us to be able to check the code during development, it will not compress everything. All right, so we can close all of this and go back to our script here because I want to show you something. So of course, whenever we now save this file, then it will reload this file here just as we had before with live server, right? So as I saved, you see that everything here reloaded, right? And we can see that here as well. So take a look at what happens when I save this here. Then you see this happened again. However, in Parcel, we can activate something even better, which is called hot module replacement. So we can write if module.hot like this, then module.hot.accept. Now this code here is code that only Parcel understands, and so of course it will not make it into our final bundle because the browser is not going to understand any of it. But anyway, what hot module reloading means is that whenever we change one of the modules, it will then of course trigger a rebuild like this, but that new modified bundle will then automatically, like magic, get injected into the browser without triggering a whole page reload. All right. So again, whenever we change something here, this will then not reload this part of the page. And so that's going to be amazing for maintaining state on our page whenever we are testing out something. So this used to be something quite annoying in the past. For example, in our Bankist application, where whenever we reloaded the page, we needed to log in again into the application. Remember that? But with Parcel and hot module replacement, that's not going to happen because the page will not reload. So if I save this now, then probably it's going to look the same. But again, if we had some state here on the page, then that would be maintained. Okay, next up, let's change something here. So as I said, when we first included this clone deep here from Lodash, this is quite cumbersome doing it like this. And so that's why in all module bundlers, there's no need for specifying the entire path to any module. So instead, we can simply do this. So keeping this here just for reference. And then all we need to say is that we want to include the Lodash library. And so Parcel will then automatically find the path to this module and will simply import it like this without us having to manually type the entire path to there. And so that's a lot more useful than what we had before. And in fact, this works with all kinds of assets. So even with HTML or CSS or SAS files or even images, and of course also all kinds of modules. So not only ES6 modules, but this is also going to work with CommonJS modules. So let me actually show that to you. So instead of importing the ES version of Lodash, we can simply import Lodash like this. So just the regular version of Lodash. And Parcel is even smart enough to then automatically install this package here. Okay, so now if we go to our package.json right here, well, it's probably not here. So it looks like maybe it didn't install it. So probably it's simply still using this one. Okay, but anyway, what I said is still true. So Parcel can indeed work with all CommonJS modules as well. And so this way, we can then simply use all the modules that are available on NPM and which still use this older module format. So let's leave it like this, save it again, And maybe you have been noticing that this card array here keeps growing and growing and growing. So if we take a look at this, you see that we are adding these 3 products over and over again. And so the reason for that is hot module replacement. So the state is maintained whenever we reload the page here. And so that's exactly what we can now observe here. Okay, so if we save it again, then we will have 15. Because we are simply adding new objects into this object that keeps persisting over page reloads, basically. And so this works with all state. And again, it's going to be really, really helpful. Okay, so this is how Parcel works. Let me now finish it here. Because remember, the way we executed Parcel first was by saying npx parcel and then index.html. However, I mentioned that there is a second way, which is to use npm scripts. And so that's the way we actually use it in practice. So npm scripts are basically another way of running locally installed packages in the command line. They also allow us to basically automate repetitive tasks. And so therefore, we then don't have to write npx, parcel, and all of that every time that we want to use it. So we can simply create a script here. Let me delete this one here. Let me just delete all of it and create a new one. So we need double quotes and then the name of the script. And the default is start here. And then here comes the script itself. And so the script is going to be simply parcel index.html. So again, we can't write this command directly in the command line, but we can write it in the npm script. And so let's now go back to our console and try it out and actually run this command. npm run and then start. And so start is the name of the npm script that we defined here. So let's try that, and here we go. So it's doing the same thing as before, but now we have the simple command that we can execute whenever we want to start Parcel and whenever we want to start developing, basically. All right, and so again, that is mainly how we do it in development. Okay. And speaking of development, whenever we are done developing our project, it is time to build the final bundle. So the bundle that is compressed and has dead code elimination and all of that. And so for that, we need another parcel command. And so let's add that as another script here. So we need a comma, and then this one will be called build. And so parcel build, and then again index.html. So let's stop this one here actually. And now let's run npm run build. So this might take some more time this time because it's doing a lot more work behind the scenes, but let's just wait for it. All right. And so now we even get this nice output with the sizes of everything. And so let's now take a look at our dist folder. And you see immediately that this HTML looks different, right? It is compressed now. So the script that we can then ship to the browser and ship to our users is this one. So ending in FD3. So this one. All right. And again, you see that it looks quite different. Everything is compressed into this unreadable mess, but it is, of course, a lot more performant than the script that we had before. And so that's why Parcel does this for us. And we will again come back to all of this in the real world once we actually move to our next more real project in which we're going to use all of this. Now, just to finish this lecture, I also wanted to mention that we can also install packages globally. And so that would work like this. So npm install parcel and then G, which stands for global. And this is actually the way that we installed the live server package before. And so because of that, we were then simply able to use live server in every directory on our computer. So basically the big difference between globally and locally installed packages, and especially these tools like parcel or live server, is that we can use the global tools directly in the command line without the intermediate step of an npm script. However, most of these tools actually advise developers to always install the tools locally so that they can always stay on the latest version. And so usually I follow that approach as well. And so I'm not going to install parcel globally like this. Okay, and that's the fundamentals of bundling with parcel and of using build tools with npm. So I introduced a lot of different concepts here. So to make sure to review this, especially this part about the npm scripts, maybe that might be confusing. And also take a look at the output files that parcel gives us. So just take some time to review all that we did in this video. And if after that this is all still very confusing to you, then don't worry. I'm sure that it will make total sense once we actually use this in our next big project.